Oh, Mr. McKenzie! Mr. Van Royer! Welcome. Come inside. Have a seat. Hey, it's good to see you again, man. Tell me, when was the last time you and I had a drink together? Never. Well, then it's time we did, huh? What like it? Whiskey? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, how's the wife and children?
Oh, my wife is fine. I don't have any children.
I thought all blacks had children. I mean, I was sure you had children.
You're thinking of someone else. All black people do look alike, don't they?
That's for sure.
Remember Suburban Bliss? The South African comedy that premiered in 1996 and was all about the culture clashes and hijinks that ensued when the Malloys, the first black family to move into the upmarket Joburg suburb of Houghton, become neighbors with a white Afrikaner family named the Dwyers. On the show, the Dwyers have a daughter and the Malloys are childless. But imagine for a moment if the Malloys had a daughter too. A privileged black young woman whose entire worldview is influenced by her tiny white world in suburban Joburg.
How's it, guys? How's it, guys? How's it, guys? How's it, guys? It's me, Kelz. It's me, Kelz. Hello. How's it, guys? I just have one question for you. How dare you? How dare you?
She could be or exist in the same world as Coconut Kelz.
Think about it.
Coconut Kelz is the satirical character created by writer and performer Lesego Tlhabi. She's the means and the message that Lesego uses to deliver her political and social commentary on the insidious ways that white privilege and racism function. Kelz, full name Gelelo, but don't ever call her that, has blonde hair and strong views about everything from affirmative action to Queen Elizabeth's death, Love Island, and load shedding. Lesego first started sharing videos as Kelz on Facebook in the early days of the Black Lives Matter movement. Kelz was Lesego's way of getting through to her white friends, who seemed totally oblivious to issues affecting black people. While Kelz and Lesego certainly don't share their political views, they definitely share a background story. Just like Kelz, Lesego grew up in a white world, dealing with racism from an early age.
The whole thing of white people's fears being played out on TV of having black neighbors for the first time. And I remember watching the show because we were some people's black first neighbors and thinking, this is brilliant. Like, it is so funny, but it's so accurate. Our neighbors are constantly just peeking, just minding our fucking business. I loved that show, and it was just how I learned humor. It was taking serious issues and flipping the script and making them ridiculous, but keeping the essence of what the issue is. And that's how I learned how to actually make jokes.
Not only did Lesego's early experiences motivate her to create a character and essentially a platform to speak out against racism.
It's Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, can you imagine if they did matter? Oh my God. Do you know what I mean? This is not like ISCOM or SA. There's no BEE here. It's just like, who's the best candidate? And maybe black people didn't even apply. I mean, it's called Love Island, not Love Robin Island. Also, they can't swim, so they don't want to be stuck on an island. Do you know what I mean?
But they also foreshadowed the backlash that she would later face as a black woman who is opinionated and unafraid to tackle controversial topics.
Cue the music. Cue the fireworks.
Welcome to Golden City. I'm your host, Zanele MG, and I love a good story. This podcast is a collection of the greatest stories I've ever heard about the city of gold, Johannesburg, South Africa. In each episode, you'll meet a different Joburger who will tell you their own true stories in their own words. All the ups and downs, adventures, lessons, wins and losses that make life in Joburg truly interesting. This concrete jungle may not have mountains or beaches to compete with the natural beauty of other South African cities, but the diverse and amazing people who call Johannesburg home make this golden city shine bright. What a story. How do you feel about that? Tell me more.
It was 2016. what was I doing? I was working behind the scenes in television. I was super unhappy in the positions that I was in because, like I said, I'd always known that I wanted to be a performer. I was writing scripts where people were like, "Oh my God, this presenter's so funny. This presenter's so cool." And I was like, it's me. I'm the one. So I'd always ask for opportunities to like, if this person's sick, or can you just give me one chance to like present? And it was like, no, yours is for behind the camera. Based on appearance, based on a lot of things. But I was just like, okay, cool. Fuck. So I was really unhappy with my job, trying to find ways to get out. But what happened is there was also a lot of the first kind of conversations of Black Lives Matter. I think Trayvon Martin passed away. I want to say it was like between 2012 and 2016. Shucks, not very sure. I remember, but anyway, the Black Lives Matter started that time, and a lot of things were happening in the news that had to do with Black bodies, Black people being murdered shamelessly, and very few, actually, none of my white friends said anything about anything. And I would always just be like, why when it's like puppies and, rhinos, there's like a whole thing. But like when it's Black people, yo, no one really cares. And like I went to school with these people and these are my friends. So if they don't care about Trayvon or whatever, they don't care about me.
Race has been an issue in Lesego's friendships since she was a child.
You're included, but as long as you toe the line of like caucasity, don't be too Black, don't be too aggressive, don't be too loud, don't be too yourself. So like one of the things that I don't want to ever undersell or whatever is that obviously going to these schools is an entirely intense privilege. Like it is obviously the opportunities, the people you're exposed to, the mindsets you're exposed to. So obviously a lot of the experiences that we had were very exclusive. Some of the legacy families that we just were just at school with, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is like a prince. Like that's wild. So I really don't want to overestimate that that was very much a part of why I've dreamed so big and why I've had all the opportunities I've had. And but being one of the only Black people in any space, people see it now in corporate, and most people experience it only for the first time when they get to the workspace. But we had to deal with that growing up, and I don't think people quite understand how, how oppressive it is to be one of two Black girls in your grade or in your class. Even from one of the first memories I have is that when we were, I think 3 or 4, we used to have this thing where our teacher would read to us before a nap. And we were so obsessed with like playing with their hair. Like, oh my God, Amy, can I just play with your hair? And I was always like, why don't they play with mine sometimes? And sometimes when a white girl touches your hair, and then there's a lot of like this, why is it greasy? I'm like, because it's healthy. And my mom sat and moisturized the fuck out of it last night. And I actually have a great head of hair. Please don't wipe your hands. How rude. And so a lot of this like microaggressive stuff started very, very young.
Other aggressions were not micro at all.
The first time I heard the K word was at school, and it wasn't even against Black people, but she picked up, well, I guess it was, because she picked up a Black boy's hat, and she said, oh, this smells like K word. I can't even say the word. But yeah, and that was like one of my best friends. So I was like, and I think that was in grade 6. So that was the first time. And the teachers, the way they handled it was to shout at us because we decided we're going to sort it out ourselves. We were like, you know what? We always go and, oh, please, Mrs. Mang Mang, this happened, and nothing happened. So we were like, nah, today we're going to talk. And then obviously these girls started crying, and then we got in trouble. And that's the day I also realized, like, oh, you guys are alone in these schools. Not only are your friends not actually your friends a lot of the time, and also not only are your friends who you thought you were one of see you as different and see you as less than, but the teachers and the principals who are set here to protect you are not. And they're not going to educate them either, and because they don't know either. So yeah, man, it was lots of fucking racism from the very early age. And I was very clicked onto it very early. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, unaware of what was happening. I was very, very in tune with how aggressive and racist it was. I just didn't have, first of all, I didn't want to make my parents feel bad for taking me to the school and be like, oh, mom, this happened. And then she's like, well, we must take you, So I never really told her. And then I never told the teachers because I didn't trust them. And how I dealt with it was kind of becoming very aggressive and like, yeah, fighting all the time and just being mean to people all the time because I was just defensive. Because I remember one time in grade 10, this girl said that I'm only at the school because of BEE. And my response was to was to slap her. And obviously it's not the right thing. Oh, violence, kids, whatever. But for me, the reason why I do Coconut Kelz is to expose that personally, verbal violence is just as aggressive as like physical violence. Yeah, I've always been very vocal. Probably too vocal. Like I said, there was ways to like not jump to every fight.
At her grandmother's house in Soweto, amongst Black kids, she experienced a different kind of tension.
When I was at Red Hill from when I was 3, so being a coconut was introduced very early. And so that was anyway, then when I became, went to school, my parents also kind of placed emphasis on English because I was like falling behind in class or like maybe didn't know certain words in English and things like that. So the teachers were like, just practice with her because, she's losing. And so I lost a lot of the vernac that I knew. And it was it excluded me from being able to hang out with my cousins or being able to be accepted when I went to go visit, home and my grandmother and like the kids that were like in the street, the local kids that lived on the street would just be like, no, we're not playing with you. You're a coconut. Like you think you're better. You think you're white. So the experience of being a coconut, this was like kind of like subverting the meaning and taking it to also push it to the extreme because what is a coconut? Also, like there's so many. I think it's the same as like what makes you Black. I think the spectrum is so wide on people being like, if you have white friends, if you speak white, if you went to majority white schools, there's so many things that can make you a coconut to people. So
One place where Lesego felt totally at home and in control was on stage.
I was a very expressive child. I was in drama and dance classes every weekend. My mom would like set us up with this dance school called the Gal, and we'd just go and do dance every weekend and be able to express myself, I guess, theatrically through dance and drama. So I loved that. I would always make my family watch me do performances against their will sometimes, and then choreograph my cousins and my sister in like dance things, and like we do them for the family. So always a very creative kid, always very expressive. I loved performing, and I still do it because I've always been funny. I've always known that I could make my teachers laugh, I could make my fellow pupils laugh, I could make my family laugh. I think from birth, I was aware that I wanted to do this for a career and that it was possible. And I think my parents were just like, cute for now, but like at some point you're going to then do business, right? Because you want to make money.
But Lesego never wavered. After school, she convinced her parents of her dreams to study musical theatre in London and film in New York City. When she started posting Kelz videos on Facebook, she was back in South Africa, frustrated with her job behind the scenes in television. Lesego was also frustrated with the privileged, sheltered world she found herself back in.
But I used to be that person who wrote long rants on Facebook, like, you guys don't care, Black lives, racism. And everyone was just like, amazing. Or, why are you so aggressive? You've changed so much since school. I'm like, well, if you knew me in school, you'd know the fuck I haven't at all. I got in a lot of trouble at school for this. So I haven't changed. And also, if I had changed, it's probably a good thing, innit? Because we're older now. So it was more just trying to find, and I kept seeing that like, over and over again. You're so aggressive. If you say it better, we'll listen. If you say it better, we'll listen. And I didn't want to say it better, but I was like, really, I want them to listen. So how do I make my frustrations, how do I make them see their racism without just attacking it? Because all it's going to do is build up defense. I need to like lure them in to listen, and the message needs to even drop later. And I've always grown up with political satire. Saturday Night Live has been my favorite show. I mean, the last few seasons, my lord. Nope. But Curb Your Enthusiasm, I mean, it's more just a satirical piece. Mind Your Language, John Stewart, a lot of these, John Oliver's, like all these shows. Suburban Bliss actually was the first South African show to do it really, 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 really well. Like, love. Like a lot of my jokes are rooted in not even self-deprecation in terms of like body image, because that was just never funny to me, but just self-deprecating humor in the way of like, if you watch Larry David, making fun of yourself, your circumstances, the ridiculousness of society. And so yeah, that's how I decided to form Coconut Kelz, because I was like, if there's a character who just says what they say, they have to listen because it's going to be funny, but the message will only drop later that, oh shit, this is me. And so the first video I used, like, I think Snapchat had like face filters or something, and just Googled like, sort of normal white woman or something like that. And then used the face filter and just sat in the car and started like saying some of these comments that I'd seen over and over again. But it was very much for a private audience. I just wanted to address my friends. I just wanted them to be like, dang, okay, we need to start caring. If you have Black friends, you can't just have them for cool points or for the fact that you went to school together. What's important to them should be important to you. You can definitely have conversations. To ignore these things and just blindly continue is like, for me, just so disappointing. And it just carried on. Every time an incident happened in the public, I would go onto like the DA's, Facebook page and 702, listen to how the listeners are complaining about it today. Oh my God, John Robbie, really? There's this. And I'm just like, okay. And eventually it became something that was like natural, because also a lot of the quotes are from school and from our time there. So yeah, it was just, that's how she was born. I'm so sorry I speak so long.
Lesego is a confident, intelligent Black woman, something she's often been expected to apologize for.
Yeah, it was on Facebook, and it was just for like 100 of my friends or whatever it was. But I remember people kept saying like, please, can you make this shareable? I need to show my cousins, like they're exactly this person. Or please, can you just post this on Instagram and do it? Or on YouTube, I think, before Instagram was really a thing. And it took me like a year and a half from the first request to actually make it public, because I was like, hey guys, you guys know me. So you know that there's a first and foremost a Lesego Tlhabi before you know there's a Coconut Kelz. And so you are already going to consume this knowing that it's a character. I don't want it to get into the hands of people who are not going to know and they're not going to attack me. But yeah, the more I protested, the more they protested. And I was like, fuck, okay. Made it public, and it wasn't that quick. I think people think it was like overnight or whatever. It's like, it was very much like 100 followers, 150, 200, very slow. And then the ENCA interview happened with Jane Dutton.
Ronald, rolling blackouts across the country, a president stuck in a public train for hours, and elections just around the corner. Coconut Kelz joins me in the studio to discuss the state of the nation. Do you know anything about rolling blackouts?
I do. I just saw rolling blackouts after the people left the studio. There was lots of black after black. So I think that's a rolling blackout. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a different take, sure.
Yeah, it is.
So when we started the show, I played a clip of you talking about corruption.
Yeah.
Tell us your thoughts. I mean, have you progressed from that? Is it, where the white perpetrators there?
There are no white perpetrators. So we call it accounting irregularities. And that's what white people do. Corruption is still a Black thing. Jane, you know it. You know what I mean? And then then it took off. But also with that skyrocketing of followers, of fans, of people who engage with the work in a positive way, you're going to get just as many who engage with it in a negative way. And that was when I first, like I said, got the threats and everything. I've just seen this thing on Twitter where people are so happy with this mob viciousness, bringing especially Black women down. I mean, I remember after the ENCA video, I got a lot of rape threats. I got a lot of abuse threats. Like people were like, if I see you, I'm going to rape you so I can remind you what it is to be a Black woman or some shit like that. I was like, but very, very specific threats telling me that I know your family lives here and I know this and I'll find you and beat you the fuck ups. And I was like, cool, this is why I'm shutting it down. And my mom was like, do you know how many satirists, comedians pray for any viral moment, good or bad? You are literally on the cusp of exactly what you wanted to do with this thing. The fact that people are angry is important in satire. If you were making satire where nobody got angry, you're not doing it right. So I know that this is so nerve-wracking, because I also didn't leave the house for like a month. I was like, I don't know who's going to make right on these threats. I have a lot of anxiety anyway when I'm in public. But when it came to Coconut Kelz, the thing that surprised me the most and the thing that was like, that took me aback was like, it's Black people that I thought I was like addressing the issues that we have with a lot of whiteness and white privilege and things like that. And you guys are the ones who are coming at me with very violent, but also coming from the group that I thought would get it. I really thought the backlash would only come from probably like conservative white people, not from like Black people. I'm like, I'm addressing extreme microaggressions and like racism, right? You get that. Why do you feel the need to like say it and then also come for like my body image and come for like just other things that also don't even have to do with the content? I mean, I used to cry a lot. I'm a very easy emotional person, which I don't think. And also when you do something creative that happens to be addressing something that you're really passionate about, your heart is in your work. And so, yeah, getting some of those comments was not nice in the beginning.
sometimes when you put yourself out there and you do something courageous and somebody else wanted to try to doesn't feel like they have, why not, why is it her? She's not even funny to me and she's got all these followers and all these opportunities, why not me? Yeah, and mostly anyway, when I post a video, I'll spend about 30 minutes responding to people because people also really love it when I respond. But after 30 minutes, I know that it's reached, or an hour, it's gone past my audience now and it's going to other places. And so the comments that can come from there can be whatever. So I usually put my phone down after that hour and I'm like, shop, done. I used to read every single comment and I was like, it's not worth it. Put your phone down. Don't search your name on Twitter. Don't search, like, just put your work out there. And then when it's out there, you've done your job.
I love this lesson that Lesego shared about self-worth outside of others' opinions, good or bad.
Even the compliments are nice, but they don't define me. And I've learned, because that was also very important to me, like, oh, please like me. And when they like me, it's whatever. But when they take it away, it was so powerful. So I was like, the power shouldn't be in the compliment or the insult. It should just be feedback, thank you, and you move on. But not to internalize either too much. Obviously, a compliment is nice, but even the people who are complimenting don't really know you. So you have to define who you are for yourself. If it is about the compliments, then it means that the day that people don't like it, then your whole self-value falls. And so for me, it's just, if I'm proud of a piece of work that I've put out, if I think something's good because I've worked hard at it and I just enjoy watching it, then it really, like I said, the compliments are obviously very nice, but it's not defining, because there was a time when I started making Kelz videos with the compliments in mind, and the compliments mostly at that time were coming from white people. So I was very, okay, like, let's not piss them off too much because they're actually supporting. Let's not go too far because they're actually, and I was like, this is starting to now factor into how I'm making decisions. Sometimes if you live for the compliments, it also stops you from doing things that you think will piss people off or you think will alienate those people who supported you. So it's just important to do you. I don't know how I'm so self-assured a lot of the times, to be honest, but I genuinely think a lot of that comes from having the mom I have, because I haven't always been so sure. I've played confident a lot of the times, but been very unconfident in my life. But I'm very nervous and very anxious and overthinking, and I still overthink a lot. But I really have, and I think that's why it's age, but the experience of also having the worst time on social media, or the worst kind of comments, just to be like, that didn't break me. So going forward, nothing else should, and nothing else should make you either.
Lesego is clear about who she and Kelz belong to, herself.
And I think a lot of white people have this like ownership on Kelz. Once they think they like her, she must exist in the plane of what they think is funny, what they think is appropriate. When I go over that line, we're not going to take away our support. As if that's going to mean anything to me. I'm like, take it. So I think and it actually happened with the Queen Elizabeth video. Actually with looting last year, but I kind of just was whatever. But it was like, you're going too far now. We've liked you, we've laughed, okay? We've enjoyed it, but it's too far now.
First of all, Queen Elizabeth was a servant of the people. Okay, not in the same way that her servants are servants, but like, still. Oh my gosh, can you
I
imagine?
remember there was this man that I worked with on an ad, and he's like the CEO. Yeah, he's the CEO of the company, and we'd worked together really well. And when Kelz was funny to him, and then Queen Elizabeth died, and it just went too far for him, and he kind of had this like thinly veiled threat of like, if you keep taking it too far, you might not. And I was like, if I don't work with y'all again, I don't work with y'all again. But like, have you seen how many comments and likes this video has gotten? It is one of the most in a very long time.
And she gave you your independence. I mean, they did take it in the first place, but she gave it back. And look what you Africans have done since.
So you not liking it is not a me problem, because Queen Elizabeth meant something to you. But I also haven't changed since the beginning. My content, and I think sometimes when they snap and realize it's satire, then they're like, she's not one of the good ones. and then that thing drops and then they hate it. Because I remember one of the first, I'd sent Helen a tweet when I first came out and I was like, love you so much, gorgeous. And she was like, love you too. Thank you for the support. And she loved me. She was like, I want to invite you to tea in Cape Town. Then she realized what the fuck I was doing, I think, at some point. Umuntu was upset and personally hurt. Like I had personally got out of my way to trick her. And that's how they all act, is like, you were cool when you were cool, but you've gone out of your way to trick us because we thought you were like being sincere. On the podcast, on the whatevers, if you live for the compliments, not to say don't take them and be happy and, enjoy them, but I'm just saying if you live for them, if you internalize them too much or internalize that kind of needing validation too much, it will prevent you from putting out honest work. It'll make you start playing to that audience and what do they want? What do they, instead of what you want. I do a lot of research before I do a video. And I'm always researching so that if something happens, because I also don't want to drop a video 6 weeks later because I've been trawling through. So what I mean by research is I go to a lot of white-only forums. A lot of anonymous sources in some of these, like Bryanston Residential Club and, DA page and what, and just look at the comments, look and see the common threads that are coming up. Because one thing about white people when it comes to responding to a social issue, I don't know if they have like a textbook or like, they send out the messages and say, okay, pass these out, but it's so generic. And so it's very easy to get like the 5 standout quotes and then put some of what I grew up with, some of my own memories of something similar.
The thing about Kelz that drives people so crazy is that she is simply a mirror.
I'm very observant. When I go out, I literally watch how white people deal with frustration, with a long queue, with no water. What are they saying about no water? What are they saying about no electricity? What are they saying about things that aren't necessarily something I'm trying to create a video for, but just getting into the minds of them when they're most frustrated. And then remembering things. Sometimes I'll write something down that I hear in the shops and I'm like, oh, that will work sometime later for a video. Or I'll see something on a forum, like that's definitely going to work for a video later. So that's how I work. And it's very, I don't know, I work very hard for it because I wanted to get the message out there. I want people to watch the video and laugh, definitely, but also then have the conversations on what I'm talking about. The looting video it was my favorite video that I've ever done because it was very funny to me, but it was that was the one where they were like, oh, you're changing. You're going too far now. You're going too far now. And I was like, that's exactly where I want you. Because I'm not your friend. Kelz is not your friend. Kelz is here to deliver messages. And you're getting too comfortable. So I need to just remind you. And I did.
How did your white friends react? How did your black friends react?
I have like 2 white friends now. So
did Kelz take care of that for you? She cleaned up.
They dropped like flies in the wintertime. Oh, God. They ran for the hills.
You know what's so funny, right? Is that to be a coconut, right? Everybody says you talk like a white person, but that switch is so interesting from
Lesego Tlhabi. From black to white. I can definitely see that we don't sound like our parents, right? Or we don't sound like a lot of whatever black people think you're supposed to sound like. But we don't sound white either. I can tell you now there's a very big distinction between Lesego and Kelz.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to take it up a register.
And like, everything's a question. Exactly. Everything is
questioning because don't hold it against me.
Exactly. I can also, it's just an opinion. I'm just sharing.
I'm just surfing. The grey area.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
It's also quite urgent.
Yeah, and I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. And if it sound like this,
I might be seething.
Like my voice has
seething.
No name. I am actually very, very upset.
By creating a character, Lesego has created and continues to carve out a custom career for herself. She's an MC, a published author, and works with big brands like Escort and Canon.
and being popular and stuff like that on Instagram and social media, the nice thing is that doors fling open. People are throwing opportunities at you. The career carves you a lot. In the beginning, there was very little that was my choice, or not my choice, but like that was me doing it on purpose. Things happened to me. Phone calls happened to me. Brands happened to me. Opportunities happened to me. Only in the last 2 years, even, have I been able to steady the horse and say, now this is what I want to do with it. And then there comes a point where you need to decide if you're going to keep being this thing or if you're going to use those opportunities to be able to, do other things. So, it was that point where I was like, I'm a bit tired of Kelz. I'm tired of the backlash all the time. I'm tired of dealing with negativity. And I'm not really, didn't do this to be one thing. I didn't do this to be a character. I did this to be a performer and a multifaceted, multi-talented performer. So I now need to actively make decisions and go after opportunities and show them different sides of me. Because when the phone rings and I'm like, oh, I can actually do this as Lesego. No thanks. It's like Kelz or nothing. And so I actually left Kelz for like the better part of a year. I was like, nah, I'm done. I just don't want to be this thing anymore. I'm so sick of this box.
She also has a hugely popular podcast called Convos and Cocktails with Lesego Tlhabi.
And now a lot of opportunities are coming where people have seen me, if it's because of the podcast, if it's because of other TV interviews that I've done and other work that I've done as an actress, that people are now like, oh, there's two different people and both have a lot of value in different ways. And I did realize afterwards that actually when Kelz does well, when a Kelz moment happens, it is also really good for Lesego. So I'm going to stop fighting this thing. I also need to like keep addressing issues because some people are really tied to like Kelz's opinions on things. They're like, I need to show my colleagues how wrong they are on this thing. And sometimes I can't articulate it. I just show them a video and they get it. Or I need to show my auntie why she's problematic. And only Kelz's way of doing things can help me. People send me messages telling me, I'm really depressed. And when you post a video or Monday stories, whatever like avenue I use now to entertain, it lifts me out of depression. There's moments where I was crying the whole day today and I just saw your video and you've made me smile. And so it's like even bigger than the political thing now. It's like people's mental health relies on it and people's joy and happiness comes from me being an entertainer and the way I entertain. Because even on Monday stories and the way I do that or my podcast, it's always going to be humorous in its delivery. But I speak about real things. I address real issues that people can relate to. It can be like, oh my God, I feel seen. I feel like I'm not alone. I feel like I'm not crazy. So I think I feel like my work is very important as a vehicle to just help people address things, to help people, go through things and not feel like they're crazy.
And remember that school where all those years ago, Lesego felt silenced and unsupported? They invited her back as a speaker.
And in 2018, so every year they have like a matriculant from a different year who's done something, I guess, exceptional or just that can also motivate the kids on the career, but also what it's like to be a St. Anne's girl of exception, blah, blah, blah. So I did go and talk to them about that. I addressed, the fact that you can't just be a girl in the school, in the world, black or white, who thinks it's okay for injustices to happen and to just step over it and move on with your life. Like if you have the privilege of being in these spaces, of coming through these schools, you owe it to the country to make a difference, even if it's in your home, your society, your little corner of the earth. It doesn't have to be on a global level, but we can't just be out here like working for money, going home, working for money. Like there needs to be a shift.
I asked Lesego how Kelz has changed her.
She has made me braver. So Coconut Kelz, I don't think has changed me, but doing Kelz, performing Kelz, having that as a part of my career has changed me in ways that like before I even went to England, so I studied and did my degree there, but I was very, very nervous of Abantu Bazotini syndrome. Like it held me back. Do you know how many years I wanted to go to Idols? How many years I wanted to, enter certain competitions, but I was just so scared that people would laugh at me, then with me or celebrate me or just be like, girl, why would you do Idols? It's so embarrassing. Why would you want to be on Generations? It's so embarrassing. Because we're just so stupid as children. But when I went to England, I just saw that like nobody cares. People are pushing, people are on social media doing videos. It was way before like TikTok and all these things. So it wasn't that many content creators. But I saw people just hustling on weekends, going shooting stuff, making jokes, making opinions, and not being scared of like, yes, there will be people who laugh at, people who criticize, people who whatever, but they're going for it. And that doing it and having the worst of the worst happen in terms of critique, feedback, and pushing through has just made me a lot braver. Well, some of my goals, the problem with this industry is like everything is on fucking NDA levels. Like you can't say anything until anything. But I am writing again. I can't specifically mention what, but I'm writing different forms of things. And I think, one of them is a movie. I want the development of the Kelz show. We're really not in a space where we're like shooting, writing, whatever. But I do have a producing partner, and we are actively thinking of how we're going to go about this next year. By the time next year finishes, I do want to at least have released a pilot season. I definitely want to bring my podcast back and make it an audio-visual experience. I miss it so much. There's a documentary coming out at the end of this month, which is very exciting. You were actually part of it, so, can't say more about that, but they'll see.
The documentary is out. It's episode 6 of Planet Sex with Cara Delevingne. Catch it on Showmax or Hulu.
But yeah, I'm going a lot behind the scenes as well because I want to produce a lot of things that I've wanted to see on TV that I haven't, that I've wanted to see online that I haven't. And so that's probably my focus for 2023. Jesus, I don't even know where we are. And I would love, I'm also in conversations on radio because I definitely love the podcast space. There's certain conversations, certain lengths of time, certain depth that you just cannot get on radio that you can get on podcasts. So that will always be a space that I first and foremost go to. But I definitely would love a consistent radio space as well because I think there's conversations that I want to have with the public live that is very difficult to have in a podcast space. I want to do this on an international stage, exactly what I'm doing, making people laugh, making people think in whatever form it takes with a more global audience. And biggie by biggie, like I said, I'm seeing it unfold. But for now, I'm very, very proud of where I came from because it just was like, I didn't know where to go, how to do it, how to start, who's going to take interest in me, how am I going to get on TV, how am I going to get to perform, how am I going to get to live the life as a singer, dancer, actor, whatever that I've wanted to live. So the fact that I get to perform and write full time and make money off of that and sustain myself off of that and travel off of that is everything I wanted forever. So yeah, I am where I want to be now.
And Kelz agrees. It's all about an attitude of gratitude.
When I go on township tours to take pictures of poor people and I give the little Skibenga children 5 rand, some sweeties, they dance. They dance to say thank you, to show gratitude. You could learn something from that.
Thank you for visiting Golden City. If you liked this episode, like, follow, subscribe on all social media and streaming platforms. If you love this podcast, give us 5 stars. I'd love to feature you on Golden City. To submit your story, go to www.goldencitypodcast.co.za. See you next time.